Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk. It's Niall, delighted as always to be joined by Paul Kelly, and we're here reacting to the news that broke this afternoon that the monster Naoya Inoue has returned or will return to the ring for two times this year. First of all, against Ramon Cardenas on May 4th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and then saying that he comes through that. He'll be back out on September 14th, back in Tokyo, Japan, against what many people believe to be the biggest test at super bantamweight that's left for him against Murjan Akhmadaliev for the undisputed super bantamweight titles. Paul, let's jump straight into it. First of all, hope you're well. The monster is back. We've got Cardenas first, and then Akhmadaliev then in September. What are your general thoughts on this? I know we touched briefly off camera, we touched on it, but first of all, Cardenas as an opponent and what you kind of know about him so far.
Yeah, thanks for having me on now. Pleasure as always. Yeah, mate, it's one of them where I think we kind of just said it there. You take this one knowing what you're going to get next. If you know what I'm saying, like Cardenas, maybe not a huge name, but top 10 ranked on BoxRec. Hasn't He's got one defeat, and it was a narrow loss back in 2017 or something. Albeit doesn't have any wins over really household names. But looks like he's a decent enough record, decent enough fighter. Um, and yeah, he'll obviously be hoping to upset the apple cart and derail the monster hype train. But I mean, he's up against it, isn't he? He really, really is. And it's one of them where, you know, after Inouye's last couple of fights, I think people have been calling for the MJ Akhmadaliev fight, or for Nakatani to move up and fight him, or for Inoue to seek pastures new up at featherweight. Um, but it's one of them where Akhmadaliev probably the only real fighter left to beat at super bantamweight. So if we're getting promised that in September, all being well, provided Inoue comes through this against Cardenas unscathed, I take it. I'm just happy to see Inoue fight anytime, to be honest. With it being, it was interesting that you mentioned as well. It's very interesting to see that it's at the T-Mobile in Las Vegas. It's good to see, Inoue outside of Japan. Um, Obviously maybe not from our point of view selfishly because we can watch him on a Tuesday afternoon on our lunch break or whatever. But yeah, I think maybe it's obviously he's with Top Rank and whatever. But is that trying to break into that American market even further? I'd say people have a fair of idea of who he is over there, but just really try and maybe break that market before then. Yeah, another big clash at the end of the year back in Tokyo where we're so accustomed to seeing him. But yeah, one of them, you could say you're disappointed in the Cardenas one, yes, to a certain degree, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm outraged because we are getting the Akhmadaliev one by the end of the year. And then all being well after that, 2026, we either see a Nakatani all Japanese showdown with Nakatani, or even a move up to 126 for Inoue.
Yeah, that would be incredible. Hard to kind of disagree with what you said there. The last couple of fights for Inoue has kind of eased off as in terms of the level of opposition we've been used to him fighting. Of course, a lot of people say, I know Eddie Hearn and all likes to say that he might be kind of avoiding Akhmadaliev, but we are getting it now. As you say, it's guaranteed. Saying that he gets through Cardenas. Cardenas is a good fighter, as you said. It's hard to record Inoue videos without trying to sound disrespectful to good fighters and his opponents. But yeah, I don't I think it'd be well overmatched. And as you said, the T-Mobile Arena on the Canelo date as well. I know Canelo is fighting on that weekend, but not at the T-Mobile for a change. So it will be interesting to see. I know he's fought in America before, but a bigger venue against not really a well-known name. I know he is an American opponent, but fascinating to see what type of business it does. But yeah, the fact that if this fight was announced as a kind of on its own without the promise of Akhmadaliev, it will be more disappointing. But we will get the Akhmadaliev fight if Inoue gets through Cardenas. Akhmadaliev then on September 14th. What's your thoughts on that matchup? Like people, the consensus is that he's the biggest test that's left for Inoue at 122, and he could be the biggest test that Inoue will have at 122. Would you kind of subscribe to that notion? Do you see Akhmadaliev causing Inoue a lot of problems here?
I actually don't, mate. No. I think he's probably is the last one, the last test, as you said, but I know it doesn't work like this and styles make fights, but Fulton beat Akhmadaliev. He definitely did. I think people had that as a close fight. Beat him for my money. Got the decision. And like I was giving Stephen Fulton a chance against Inoue, but having seeing it, watching it unfold, you're like, geez, there's levels here. And I know that doesn't work that way. Just because you beat one fighter means you're going to beat another fighter. I know it doesn't work like that, but kind of te to me, it's a huge ask for Akhmadaliev. Not saying it's impossible. He's definitely, for my money, the toughest test left at 122 pounds. Um, ahead of your Goodmans and your Picassos and stuff. Definitely. Quite massive threat for Inoue, to be perfectly honest. I'd be backing Inoue to win there. It would be a matter of whether it would be a stoppage or points for me. So yeah, that's the interesting one. I'm just quickly on another point that you've mentioned. I just noticed, and it's a video for another day, but in the space of May 2nd and May 3rd, you've got Canelo fighting in Riyadh. You've got that Times Square card in New York, and now you've got Inoue as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's absolutely insane.
Mm. I'd actually forgotten about the Times Square card as well as that weekend. So that's incredible. That's an all-star weekend, the boxing right there. It really is. I can't wait for that. But yeah, again, it's hard to disagree with what you said. I do think that Akhmadaliev is the toughest test that's left for anyway to fight at 122. But I think he already has beaten the biggest threat to him at 122 on Stephen Fulton. Just stylistically, I think how awkward and kind of slippery Fulton is. Akhmadaliev, again, a world-class fighter, but I just don't think he brings anything that Inoue hasn't seen before, in my opinion. But it'd be nice to kind of for Inoue to get that out of the way if he does, and silence Eddie Hearn on that on that aspect after the comments that he was making, the ridiculous comments. But yeah, it's going to be a real treat to see, and I'm going anyway 2 for 2 in 2025. As are you. So yeah, the monster is back. Just a quick one before we wrap up. You mentioned it, and I'd love to get your kind of thoughts on it. If anyway does fight Nakatani, who would you see coming out on top there?
Yeah, I think Nakatani's definitely a real threat, especially after his last performance as well. But I can't sit here and say that Inoue doesn't win that fight as of today. Maybe a few more frailties than we've seen in the past, having been dropped by Lewis Neary and all, but he just bounced back and got the stoppage there anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, I almost maybe more impressed by Inoue, showing that slight bit of vulnerability. But yeah, I would still be backing Inoue to beat Nakatani unless something drastically changes in the next year to whenever that fight happens.
Yeah, Nakatani is a phenom, but I just can't back against Inoue either. I really can't. But yeah, that's for another day. That's for the future. Inoue has to get past two men this year. Firstly, Ramon Cardenas on May 4th, and then all goes well there. He'll fight Murodjon Akhmadaliev on September 14th in Tokyo, Japan. The monster is back. Let us know what you think in the comments below. How do you see him getting on in both fights? Does Cardenas cause him more problems than people we'll give him a chance to do? Let us know, get involved, and as always, don't forget, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all social media. We'd really appreciate it. And yeah, Paul, it was a pleasure, and take care.
Oh man, all the best now.